it's interesting because Dmitry Polyansky just made an interesting statement about that. He said he was stating that regarding the new Cold War, this is not the new Cold War. He said, this isn't it. He said, this is different. What's happening right now is a multipolar world, and Western hegemony is it's falling apart. And so we're moving from a unipolar world to a multipolar world. He's referring to, I assume, China, and he's referring to some of the alliances being made economically right now, and the de-dollarization. And of course, in that whole mix, you have the movement towards many countries towards crypto and towards Bitcoin and towards an electronic currency that's decentralized. And the United States doesn't like that, right?
Right.
They've gone after anybody who's involved with crypto. Right. But there are countries who already kind of adopted that. So could you talk a little bit about some of the countries that you know of that did that in Central America and South?
Well, they have. So what are called remittances? Like, for example, if I'm somebody that lives in Honduras, my family that lives in the United States can send me money, but through Western Union, and it costs a lot of money to send your money. Right. Like they charge you an arm and a leg. So what some people have done to navigate these sanctions are basically use crypto in certain places in Asia and certain places in Latin America. It's not as popular as it could be, but it's getting more momentum, particularly in El Salvador. You're seeing that now. El Salvador has a very controversial president. He is definitely not a favorite of the establishment of the United States, but he's also not a favorite of the anti-imperialist left. There's a lot of controversy because he has undone a lot of social programs, a lot of social safety nets for the country, but he's still not a favorite of the IMF. So he kind of comes across like a libertarian of sorts. And he has been pushing cryptocurrency a lot through the use of energy of this volcano that El Salvador has. So it's and his name is Bukele, and he's a younger guy, and he's definitely much more innovative and different. So it's kind of like he's got a lot of people that don't like him all over the place. He's kind of somebody I would describe as hard to pin down, but I definitely have my issues with him, but I also think he doesn't always do what the establishment wants it to do. So he's kind of like one of those ones to watch. Now, in terms of the Bitcoin stuff, what the United States is trying to do is to control cryptocurrencies, to put them in a centralized form through digitalization of all our money, right? So we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution here. We're talking about all of that, but there's a difference between different cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is a decentralized cryptocurrency. So it doesn't operate through the central bank. You can't, it would be very hard to control it, which is why the United States has done everything they can to give it a negative spin. And it's not the most reliable right now because of everything they've been doing. Now, the other thing that's happening, I don't know if you heard about this, is the Russian ruble is going to be made into a digital form.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So a lot of people,
but decentralized, correct?
Right. So
decentralized.
It's not going to have anything to do with the
centralized banking,
IMF centralized banking system. The ruble, and Putin just spoke at the technology forum in Moscow yesterday. I'm losing track. I think it was yesterday. And he basically said that the whole point of them doing that was to keep up with technology, but also have this word again, technological sovereignty, meaning not be dependent on other countries' technology or fall behind the advancement. And this is something I've been talking to several of my journalist friends about. There is a sector of people that think that everything that Russia isn't really opposing anything, China isn't really opposing anything, that they're all just gonna, come in and they're all going to be a part of this fourth industrial revolution, and they're all going to sell the people out, and it's all the same. I disagree with that point of view. And I've had multiple discussions about why I disagree with that point of view with people who know a lot more about China than I do. And people like Matt Ehret, he's explained it very well, and his partner Cynthia,
Mhm.
they really go into depth as to why they see like there is opposition in Russia and China
Mhm.
against the West, and I
Mhm.
100% agree with that. And here's the thing, uh, I don't see Russia using this technology against its own people, because
No.
everything they're doing right now is the diametrical opposite of that.
Mhm, mhm.
In the United States, what have we experienced? We have experienced decline.
Right.
And it's a completely different situation. And also the decentralized factor. This is more about getting Russia to compete in the multipolar world rather than getting Russia to be isolated. And I'm of the belief, like, unless we go back to where we're literally farming and we have no technology and we all
Mhm.
live off the land, which some people want to do, and I think that you should you should grow
Yeah.
your own food. I think you should, find avenues to have land to do all that, because I do think that's important. But unless everybody does that, which is not feasible,
Mhm.
then there's no, these countries are not, they would lose if they succumb to say, well, we're just not going to embrace technology because we can't compete with technology. Things are going to advance whether we
Yeah.
like it or not,
Sure.
unless we literally bomb the world to pieces and destroy everything.
Mhm.
So this idea that we, that these countries, because they're embracing some sort of digital format like China or Russia, are already selling everybody out, is a
Mhm.
very, I would say, reductionist, myopic point of view, because
Hmm.
it really depends on the type of government you have and how it's working.
Right.
And I think that perspective comes from people who have a more what's a um anarchist perspective, where all
Okay.
governments are bad. And
Mhm.
I get that perspective,
Sure.
but it's just not true, because I've seen governments that work for people, at least to a certain
Mhm.
degree, that have every intention. I've seen governments in Nicaragua that do that, and they allow these anarchist communities and like that we went to in Billweed to exist, and they
Mhm.
don't interfere unless they're asked. So there are governments that actually are not bad. And I think
Yeah.
this idea comes from the Western centric perspective that our governments have been shitty. So we automatically assume that everybody is
Kind of like
just
trauma,
not.
it's just
Yeah.
like trauma, like you can't believe anyone's going to be kind after you've been treated so badly, right?
Yeah.